On social media, in different social functions, and even in normal conversations, one thing that pops up once in a while is how Gen Z is different from the rest of us. Their buying habits, their social media habits, their almost everything, fashion even. So I think one thing that it should interest us as business owners is marketing, how to sell. And Gen Z is growing into they are fast growing, so they are going to be very soon the generation with the probably the highest purchasing power. So that's why we need to know how to market to them, how to sell to them, and that will be today's topic of the Tech Your Business podcast. To discuss marketing with to Gen Z with me today is Emmanuel Rose. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you. So, like I was saying, Gen Z seems to be a hard nut to crack. So, what's different about about Gen Z and the rest?
Well, Peter, as you probably know, they're the first 100% digital generation, right? They've never known a day without the internet, and so that makes them interesting to market to because they've seen every bad marketing that could happen online from the very first day.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's the biggest thing. And then, obviously everything that happens is it's very mobile oriented. So
mm,
they're on a phone, they're DMing. They typically would rather DM with people than sometimes even be in the same room with people.
I think I have a bit of Gen Z spirit in me then.
Well, that's good because they are, like you mentioned, they are the biggest consumer force that is coming online as the biggest group of people, especially in the Western world.
Yeah,
And so they're important in that way. And they're just coming into age now, about 27 or 28 years old,
yeah.
and so they're just maturing into career and family and home buying and so it's important for most businesses to look at how to generally speak and act and be with these people to be able to provide goods and services to them.
Yeah. Okay. So now, for business owners who are creating marketing campaigns and the like, what common ways have you seen them misunderstand Gen Z when they are creating these campaigns?
The kind of like the three do not do with marketing and Gen Z would be being general or not having any humans in the marketing. So you have to be relevant and in the channels that they're participating in. So email marketing is not the best way to get in touch with these people. They want to see an email to confirm a purchase, maybe, if at all. So not being on the correct channels, and then not being on social. Right, those are the biggest mistakes that you can do. Is generic marketing in the wrong channels, not on social media.
Okay. So now, can you tell us a bit about? Let's just go back to introductions. Can you tell us a bit about you, about your journey, and how you got into this interesting field, marketing to Gen Z?
Sure. Yeah, so I've been in sales and marketing my entire career, a little over 30 years now. And in the last 15 years, have owned a marketing agency called Strategic Marketing. And about 5 years ago, I saw this big bubble of people coming in, which was this Gen Z, and decided I would dig in and do some research and understand it better. And then from that interest that I had as a marketer, then I wrote the book about authentic marketing to Generation Z, and yeah, it's been interesting to talk about and watch and understand um, how they are, and to talk to the Gen Zs themselves and to say, what is it that you like or don't like, and what social are you on, and why do you buy things, and how do you get recommendations to purchase things, and to understand not just the big picture demographics and psychographics, but also really get in the nuts and bolts how they think individually.
Okay, so now looking at the available platforms, the available marketing channels, which have you seen that are most effective for reaching Gen Z consumers?
Sure, the video channels are going to be the best. TikTok is still the best way to do it, and my recommendation, if you're a company that's not involved in TikTok yet, is just open an account and buy ads and create some video ads, and start there and get comfortable on the platform, and then move into creative native content. YouTube also super valuable way to reach this group of people. They're very committed to learning, and they are the most educated people, at least in the Western hemisphere, the most educated people that we have in our cultures. So the more that we can take marketing and make it a learning event or make it an experiential event, those are two things that are very important to this group of people.
Okay, so now you mentioned video marketing. You mentioned the different what do you call it, the different channels. You've just mentioned the different channels of reaching this Gen Z um, consumers. So what's
Yeah.
the yeah? So now, can you give us an example of a successful Gen Z marketing campaign? Then let us know how it differs from a typical general marketing campaign.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, if you've heard of Kylie Jenner, then you know
Uh-huh.
what it is to be successful, a successful marketing campaign. Okay, so if we look at the pieces and parts of that, she's one of the youngest billionaires or almost billionaires in the world. She has not just product videos, but she has a very deep dive into her personal life, the things that are important to her. Um, you know, Obviously she was a TV star, so there's a certain amount of comfort she has about the camera, but there's a certain amount of transparency that she has into her life, where you actually feel like you know her, and that's come through in her brand and the way that Gen Z is attached to the brand. So those are the pieces that we can do as small business owners or small business managers, is to have video first and be very comfortable on video. So if you're not, then take the time to learn how to be. And if you
Mhm.
still can't be comfortable, then fake it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think okay, so you mentioned Kylie Jenner, and I think one thing I've noticed, especially with campaigns targeting Gen Z, is the use of influencers, especially micro influencers,
Sure.
for those campaigns. Yeah, so can you explain that concept of these micro influencers and why they seem to be more successful at reaching these Gen Z consumers?
Yeah. So in the psychographics are they're much more willing to take a recommendation from another person than they are to believe advertising. And
Mm,
um, so even you know the micro influencers of their friends on social media, like oftentimes that they'll send out a group message and say, I need new car insurance, what are you guys doing for that? And then get those recommendations from friends.
yeah.
So so this user generated content is super valuable to reach them and trigger them because of that, and then to have um, celebrities or minor celebrities, or even just people who have a following, depending on what your product or service is a good way then to run campaigns and get transactions from disease.
Okay, so I think let me just go back a bit. You mentioned something that struck something in my mind about learning to be comfortable on video. So,
Sure.
what would you say being comfortable on video is, and being uncomfortable on video? How does that show? Yes.
Well, so let's see. I didn't start out comfortable on video, right? Like it was foreign to me. Um, so I have a face for radio, is the joke that we always say, right? um, so the comfortable part is just the frequency of participation. So there's two things I recommend for CEOs or business marketing managers. Number one, uh, take 90 seconds every Monday and shoot an iPhone video about your employee of the week, your customer of the week, new product announcement, the what you did over the weekend in your community, and do that every Monday, 9:15 or whatever the time is, and shoot that video. Immediately email it off to your people to get it cleaned up and posted and transcripted and shorted. Right. So we've got good content from the CEO every week. Number two is do exactly what we're doing right here and be on podcasts, be a guest, and you get a lot of reps that way of answering questions, telling stories, seeing your face on video, and you build a comfort with that, where it's like, okay, not a big deal. I have the setup, I have this light, I have this microphone, I have a good camera, I have the earbuds, and I know that I'm going to produce good content that sounds and looks good. So to me, that's how you get comfortable.
Yeah, and I agree with you on the second part, especially because when I got to my first podcast, I think that's just barely maybe a year or two ago. I could hear my heart. I think probably the other person could hear my heart beating because I was that
Yeah,
uncomfortable and tense and everything. And these days, it's just like just something I don't even have to think of before I do. I just sit and I'm on. So I think that's really, really great advice. Just practice,
yeah.
even though it looks difficult.
No, for sure. Yeah, and the same for me. I started out and I was nervous, and it took me 30 minutes to prepare, and I was hoping I could answer all the questions, and scared. Uh, I don't know. I've probably done 500 of these now, and it's just
Wow.
like you said, it's just second nature, right? You're just like,
Yeah.
hey, here's this nice man. We're gonna have a great conversation, just like as if we were meeting in a coffee shop locally. The same idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So now there's one thing about this thing, especially in the job market. They say Gen Z workers usually hop jobs quickly, and also in the markets, general market too. What would you say about brand loyalty among Gen Z consumers, and what are effective ways to build brand loyalty among Gen Z consumers?
Yeah, that's great questions, and I think they're two separate questions, right? One is
Yeah.
how do you hire, manage, and engage this group so that they can stick around, and it's part of what psychologically they're dealing with because of the screen time and the internet and gaming is do tend to have a shorter attention span than what we're
Yeah.
used to. And they require things to keep moving and the gamification. And they require a little bit more training on, say, emotional intelligence and customer service. That's just not the strength of typically in this group. And so it takes a commitment to meet them where they are and then gamify the training as an employer so that they can see progress just like a video game and
Yeah.
and then also see change in the way they're paid or compensated and how much responsibility they get. So they like to make money, so it's not like they don't want to work.
Yeah.
But some of us, our job as the elders in the business is to help them stay engaged by meeting them where they are in terms of attention and gamification.
Yeah. So when you talk about gamification, what are some practical ways to do this?
Yeah, it would looking at like if you've got a training manual that you would break that into 10-minute increments and that they're winning a prize as they complete the training manual
Mm,
every chapter. So some people might scoff and say we're not training children here, but whatever the situation is, we know it's way more expensive to keep hiring people because they're
true.
quitting, and this is the labor force. So you got to adapt and adopt those kind of practices.
Okay. So now, for a business owner who wants to improve their marketing, improve their messaging to their Gen Z consumers, especially the ones who sell products that are more targeted towards Gen Z, what's one simple change they can make today, or at least in the next few days, that will improve their marketing to that segment?
Is become the social CEO, just like Elon Musk or Kylie Jenner, and become comfortable being the primary influencer for your company, and get on video like we talked about, get on the podcast, and then build content marketing and advertising based on what you're saying in video, and be willing to talk about uh, not just product and service, but also about who you are as a person and what you believe in, and uh, and and how you are living the life of a full human, so that there's some emotional attachment that can happen in the marketing as well.
Okay. So now for businesses too, with that don't really have large budgets too, are there any accommodations or anything they can do to make sure that that budget they have is effective too?
Yeah, you want to make sure that you're spreading your spend or through Snapchat, through TikTok, through YouTube, and that you're leveraging social media ads. That's the biggest thing. And then if you do have budget for events, then uh, focus on experiential or educational events that you can build not just around your product, but just in general, and bring in a number of other experiences into an event. So it's like a mini brand festival for people to engage in, and then that's to me when you would use these micro influencers to invite their communities into these kind of in person events.
Okay, so I think you mentioned something about storytelling, and we know most people are drawn in by it by a story. Most people are really drawn in marketing by a story, caught by the story, and reeled in with it. So, what was the place of storytelling in marketing to Gen Z, and how can it be used best?
They love, like we were talking about earlier, they love to hear the stories from their friends. So that's where the user generated content is so good about, especially if you can structure it in terms of here I was having this problem. I did a bunch of research. I found this product or service, and then solved what I needed to have it solved. And these guys have been awesome, and they're really like one of my friends. So that cascading story of the hero's journey is
Yeah,
a still archetypally works for this generation just like every other generation because they are humans.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Even with the short attention spans.
Yeah, yeah, you might want to just shorten it a little bit, but yeah, the hero's journey still works. Yeah.
Okay, so I think one other thing when we come to technology is that with technology, there's a lot of automation, and with the automation, so there's also a lot of brands try to make effort to personalize their interactions with these consumers and all that. So, what's the place? How do they balance this automation? How do they balance this personalization while building or executing their marketing strategies?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing, the biggest gap I see is a lack of testing from smaller businesses. And so the automations or the personalization often comes out flat, right? Like sometimes it'll say Mrs. Emmanuel instead of Mr. Emmanuel, or misspelling my name. So those things are the giveaways. And if I can see it, as a Gen X, then the Z's are going to sniff that out instantly. So if you're going to use personalizations, make sure that they work. That's the first thing, that it's clean and clear. Um, and then, the other thing is we have a lot of tools at our disposal now as marketers for ways to interact with the clients or prospects. So, it's important to have the chatbot as an option. It's important to have the FAQs as an option. It's important to have even a voice AI that you can call and talk to on the phone. And then it's important to have a human that can be the backstop for that. And that way, the end user gets to choose uh, how they get the information that they need.
Okay. So now, so social media. I know you mentioned TikTok earlier. So apart from that, are there other social media platforms where it will be easier to reach these Gen Z consumers?
Yeah, it goes YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. Those are right now the best channels, the most consistent channels. A little bit on Facebook, but they see that as like the old person's social media. So, their mom is going to be there too. So they don't want to be too frequently on there. And like I said earlier, it's okay to have your presence be pay-per-click ads with a little bit more robust of a profile, so they
Yeah.
know who you are. But you don't have to produce content for every single platform if that is too big for your team. So the ads definitely are the way to go.
Okay. So now, talking about trends in marketing, what would you say are the top three trends for marketing, especially 2024 going into 2025?
Well, we have an amazing suite of tools available to us through AI, and um, so obviously that's the biggest trend. You can't open your email without seeing that, right? Um, and so as marketers, we have to just decide what am I not good at, and where can I find a piece of software that might be able to help me do that, or uh, what don't I have staffing for, and could use that help from software. And there is absolutely a tool for every part of the marketing campaign at this point. So that's one of the big trends. I mean, video is going to continue to be a priority for all of us in the marketing space, and and then producing content or curating content that's valuable for your ideal client profile. So we have a situation now where we've got 1,000 times more content than we had a year ago because of the LLMs, right? So our job is to either curate content that we know is good, that people can consume and understand, or to produce it ourselves and then get it in the on the eyeballs of the people who are ideal clients.
Okay. So now, for businesses who are trying to um, market to Gen Z, what mistakes would you say they should avoid? I know you mentioned a couple of them previously.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing to avoid is treating them like they're everybody else, right? Like we need to be clear that they have some different psychographics because of the way that they've grown up. And so you want to build those ideal client profiles. You want to build a content map that matches those ICPs for that group of people. Um, and so the other thing to avoid is just bad messaging that doesn't speak to what their concerns are. And then, yeah, the generic marketing is also the thing we have to avoid.
Okay. So now, going forward, going into the future as they grow up, how do you see Gen Z marketing evolving, changing in the next few years?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, we're talking about humans who are 13 to 28 roughly, so they're going to be moving into all the phases of adulthood, and they're going to become more sophisticated than they are now at discerning messages. And I think, from my perspective, the more authentic we can be as a small brand, and the more that we can have our actual leaders speaking, to these prospects, the more valuable the marketing will be, and the better results we're going to get from the marketing.
Okay. So now, for as we get to the end of the episode, what piece of advice can you give to the listeners, business owners, building marketing campaigns going for Gen Z? Maybe something I haven't asked about, but something you know that would be important to them on this topic.
Yeah, I think one thing that we can do now is that we can say you can build your campaign like we discussed, building an ICP, building your content map, building some initial ads and social posts. Take that, put that into Claude or into Chat, and then ask Chat to review it, understand where that messaging is in relation to your competitors, and then update that messaging based on what the gaps are in the market that you're working to sell into, and really leverage the LLMs as a third party consultant to get more specificity and better messaging.
Amazing. I think that's really great advice because end of the day, some people might just decide to use the LLMs to write everything, but I think taking it from this angle will get much better, much better results. So for the listeners who have listened to this episode, they've learned a lot about marketing to Gen Z and tailoring their campaigns to meet these customer segments. And probably they want to continue this conversation because it's actually been really short. So they want to talk about they want to talk about this for hours. They want to go deeper into it, or they want to connect with you or work with you on building marketing campaigns for Gen Z. What's the best way they can reach you?
Well, thanks for asking, Peter. Yeah, they can find me at emmanuelrose.com or on LinkedIn at Emmanuel Rose. Yeah.
Okay, so emmanuelrose.com, LinkedIn, Emmanuel Rose. So those will be on the show notes. They'll be on the screen once this episode goes out. So thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for being generous with your knowledge, your time, and everything on the podcast today.
Absolutely. I'm grateful to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And for the listeners, if you learned something new today about marketing to Gen Z, about tailoring your campaigns for that segment, and you know someone else who probably offers a product or a service that is for that marketing segment and is struggling, for this episode to them. And if you want to be the first person to know when we release new episodes like this for your business, don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe wherever you see us or hear us on. So till next week when we're out with a brand new episode, don't forget to keep taking your business. Bye for now.